So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is Commission on the City Plan, May 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Do a roll call. I'm here. Kathy Wazika is here. Dean Mason, Jason Corder, and Nick Fortson is here. And we'll seat him tonight as a regular member. I would note that on the roll call here, we're still listing James Cordo, but he did resign. So
I don't know if they've gotten the official slip next door yet.
yeah,
but
that had to be over a month ago.
Yeah.
It was before the last meeting.
Yeah,
So,
he had sent an email, but there's a form that they're supposed to fill out.
yeah, I
don't know
think
if
once
that's
somebody
happening.
says I'm no longer a member,
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to hold them to it.
not really my requirement. I'm
Yeah.
just letting you
So
know.
I'm noting that for the record, though. I don't believe Mr. Cordo is a member anymore because he submitted his
I would
resignation.
agree with
In any event, we have a quorum. First order of business then is see if we can get approval of the March 18th, 2025 minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody want to make a motion to approve or modify or do something with them?
I'll make a motion to approve March 18th, 2025 minutes.
Can we get a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Dean Mason, second by Nick Fortson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there.
All right, thank you, Kathy.
Jason, you weren't there either. Where? At that meeting, right?
The March 18th.
We gotta approve, is it, you gotta do the May 6th also, or?
So, and then the May 6th minutes, if we can get a motion on those, if everybody's had an opportunity to look at them.
A motion to approve the May 6th.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining again. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. So the minutes are approved. I see under communications, we have a referral from the town of Preston.
Hey, Kathy, do you mind speaking about that referral?
There are 4 referrals and I don't have them in front of me, but one is to remove the requirement of the zoning enforcement officer to approve yard sale permits, which is ridiculous. The second one is to remove the requirement of a renewal permit annually for home occupations. The third one is to not require a renewal permit for accessory apartments. And the fourth one is, I don't know, tell me what the fourth one is.
I don't remember either in this month.
Oh, hold on.
Need to take any action on it, Kathy?
I mean, you know what? Oh, the other one is to only require gravel facilities to renew their permit every 4 years. Right now it's every 2 years. So we wanted to give a little more flexibility. It's just to make everything a little bit easier. So you don't have to respond to it if you don't want to. But it's not going to have any impact on Norwich at all. It's just, just to make things go smoother when going through the application process.
All right, thank you, Kathy. I don't see anything under new business. Under old business, we have site development plan number 1007M parentheses A. 555 and 575 through 599 Norwich Avenue, site plan modifications associated with access and parking improvements for the development of the Panema Landing Building into a restaurant, application and property of 555 South Mill LLC and 575 South Mill LLC Paula O'Neill, Principal, Assessors Map 47, Block 4, Lots 5 and 6, Zone PMR and Mill Reuse Overlay District. This has been tabled from the March 18th meeting. So, is somebody here to speak on that?
I'll speak initially, if you
Okay.
don't mind, just to give a recap on where we're at on some of the issues that were brought
Could you
up.
just identify yourself for the record, please?
Phil Biondo, representing 555 South Mill LLC, 55 and 575 Norwich. Brandon is on the line too, and he'll speak specifically to the site plan. But Brandon, could you do me a favor? And because the plan that I have, they visually can't see it. Could you just bring up the large site plan of the entire site, please? Thank you. And I'll speak to this the best I can in relation to the remediation of this. As you may recall, there was material that was excavated from the site and brought to various sites, in one in Preston, two in Norwich, one in Jewett City, and one in Franklin. Okay, please. And that was material that was thought to be clean. It was not identified as being contaminated in all the studies that we've done, with the 3 studies that we've done. This was overburden material that was excavated, removed from the site, and then subsequently tested and found it exceeded some of the residential standards. One key has taken, and the developer in this particular case has taken the efforts to, in coordination with the DEP and the EPA, because one of the sites had some PCBs identified on the Franklin site. But that will, two of the sites, 2 in Norwich, have been completely remediated. The Franklin site is ongoing and just got approval from the EPA to be able to remove and start remediation efforts there. So there's one additional site in Preston and one additional site in Jewett City that has yet to be done, but has been identified, and we'll undertake ongoing activities to fully remediate and restore those 2 sites.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Kathy.
Where, just because I'm the planner in Preston, where was the property, the soil taken to in Preston?
It's Mel Weiss's.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
It's the same one. So that those soils had been taken. Mel was using them to make processed materials. Those sites, now that's been tested, and now it will be that work is being coordinated with the DEP right now, and sample testings have been done, and whatever pile of material that's been placed will be removed, disposed of, and accepted in the proper landfill.
Okay, you don't have to explain anymore. I just wanted to know where it was in Preston. Thank you.
And so also to give a little bit of this, kind of identify where those materials were. All the excavated overburden materials were on the southeast side of the site. In that area, exactly right there, a little bit to the south, yeah, in that area. That area was going to have an engineered control in which a liner was going to be placed at depth. There was going to be a cut. And in order to get that, we had to excavate materials. Now realize, and those soils above that liner were tested previously as not being contaminated. And I can't say they were tested as clean, but not being contaminated. Those are the materials that were removed offsite. And as you can see, in relation to what we're talking about now, Panema Landing, that's the area that we're addressing right now. So all the materials that we've been addressing offsite, remediating, is in that area in the southeastern part of the site, and all those materials are now being addressed and being disposed of, or will be remediated and properly disposed of. So that's kind of an overview of that particular issue. I know it brought up. I know it's important for the commission to understand where we're at in that process, but we're taking active measures to address it and properly deal with it. Be glad to try to answer any questions that it relates to that issue. And then Brandon will certainly run through the site plan and all the issues, the technical issues with the site plan.
Any questions for Ms. Biondi? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brandon, you're up.
Yes, sir. All right, we talked about this in March, but I'll give a quick recap of what we're proposing. So this is the approved plan we presented to you in 2021. At that time, Panema Landing was projected as a cafe, restaurant, brewery, or possibly a community building. It was undefined. It is a two-story building. So access, this is lower. This access is the lower portion of the building. And the only access to the upper portion is this sidewalk here to Norwich Avenue. I will say that originally this was a raised driveway that went into the, I think it was Amazing Furniture. So they brought in fill here to get into the upper levels of the mill. That was targeted to be removed, and a portion of it has been removed as part of the project. So just wanted to point out, it was originally slated for a restaurant. I don't remember the square footage of that restaurant, 3870. So we projected half of the building would be a restaurant. And we're here today because they want to actually make it a restaurant. But the improvements that we're proposing are to keep some semblance of access and handicap parking to the upper level. So what we're proposing to do is keep this curb cut here onto Route 97 and 169, which is Norwich Avenue. Put a retaining wall around the parking lot there, so it'll be elevated in that grade with the upper floor of the restaurant. There'll be 5 parking spaces to the south of the building, one of them handicapped accessible van. There will be an accessible route into the front door from those parking spaces. And to promote access without folks having to go right back out onto Route 97 if there's no parking spaces, what we're proposing is a one-way clockwise circulation across the front of the property with a crosswalk, and then 5 additional parallel spaces here. And then they can circle back down the slope and get onto the lower platform where we have existing parking for the mill and the combined restaurant use. No other substantial changes to the site related to parking. We did go back through and total the footprint area of the restaurant that works with parking for the 140, I think 8 units. We have adequate parking for the combined use without taking a shared credit. So the restaurant itself is 4,200 square feet maximum of patron space. We have 1 parking space per 75 square feet of that patron area. And then we have sufficient parking for the remainder of the 148 multifamily units. In terms of kind of dovetailing what Phil was speaking about in terms of fill or excess fill and removal from the site, this is the grading plan. It's a whole lot of lines. This is the grading and drainage plan and utilities. But what I wanted to point out, again, we're working generally in this area here. And if I go to the next sheet, I calculated the limit of what would be excess volume or space for fill within the limit of where we're working. So part of this exercise was to make sure we're not promoting any more material to be removed from the site, and everything you see in green is what would be a net fill. So space for us to put fill, not only from the excavation of our area, but other excavation areas from the site. And the majority of that fill occurs, or space for fill occurs right here. So this is not a balanced approach. We are providing more volume for fill to be placed. And the only areas there's really cuts associated with our work right about there. That there'll be minor cuts just to bench in the driveway, make sure we can have 10% slopes, provide a curb, And the depth of excavation there is usually around 6 to 8 inches. So it's not a very deep excavation. And one thing to point out in this area here, if we go back to 2004, before Panema Mill was rehabbed, you'll see the area where we're proposing the driveway was already the main access to Panema Mill, north and south. And there was parking above that retaining wall here. So we're kind of bringing that back. But point being, this area here was filled in. You can see the radius of the mill there. So they filled this area in when they created the new road or the new driveway. And so that fill presumably is from this area here to the north and granular. But there was a road underneath it that went up the slope in a similar fashion. I think that covers most of what I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions or go
So
through.
I have a question,
Yes.
and you might have said this, but I didn't hear. Okay.
Mhm.
So the restaurant is going to be the upstairs and the downstairs?
So it will be on both floors.
Yeah,
And there's the kitchen, I believe, is in the first floor in this back
the
corner.
first floor. Okay,
That's why we have room for the air handlers here.
okay,
So the kitchen itself will be on the first floor. There will be some dining space on the first floor. There'll be an upstairs dining space and I believe a bar and then service area upstairs. So in total, the patron area that the architect calculated was under 4,200. And that's the cap we can have. I think we submitted architecturals. I just want to see here. Might have just been elevations.
yeah, it's a nice building.
Yeah, it looks like we just submitted elevation. So this is the upper level front door.
Mhm.
Mainly restaurant bar with service area. And then this is the lower area. I think this is the west face. So Norwich would be behind. That is parking area is going to be here.
Mhm.
And then this is the door now that will be maintained. Stairs down, separated from the building. This is the parking deck on top, and this is the driveway below. I apologize. I thought we had floor plans, but I'm not seeing them in the file I submitted.
So will there be any other uses to the building besides the restaurant?
No,
Okay. That's all I was wondering. Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, Deanna, you had a question?
Brandon, could you just explain what's gonna when you're moving the material for that the driveway going down? To replace what was kind of there already, where are you putting that material on the site, or are you hauling that off?
No, that material will go here.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
What is the new slope to that area that's being filled in?
2 to 1.
And so how are you going to stabilize that with what? Not lawn?
It'll likely be erosion control fabric. They do have a few areas on the site where they used that red stone and planted like a juniper slope. So that's a landscape detail we can certainly work out.
On the 2-to-1 slope, that's pretty steep.
Yeah, 2 to 1, we're okay with. I mean, you can vegetate it. It's just not really easy to mow.
To maintain, right?
So what we see on other slopes in the site is that we can use a stone surface cover with a filter fabric underneath it or a weed control fabric underneath it, and then you can plant the junipers that kind of cover the slope. and create a juniper mat.
That doesn't usually work, but I know that's probably one of your best options.
Unfortunately, we need the volume. And we're trying to match kind of what they did along the front, the
Yeah,
walls for the north mill. The other things I've used, which not great here, we've used a no-mow mix that kind of falls over on itself, so it gets like
yeah,
8 inches high. The magic to this kind of slope, one, we don't have water draining to it other than when it
mhm,
falls on it. So there's no need for a bench slope, but we do have an opportunity to bench it if we had to. But again, we don't want to really dig into that slope if we don't have to.
mhm.
So I think
That's not gonna be visible from the road anyway. It'll
correct.
be visible just from the building.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's probably the best solution.
Any other questions? All right, anything from Dan?
Yep, 1 second, please. So we've been at this for a while now with the delays. Been talking with Brandon. All of the original comments have been addressed, and the city engineer had a couple comments that will be addressed before anything would be submitted to the DOT. DOT has to take a look at the plan. I do have Brandon, I think my only comment is for the bond estimate. What did the city engineer say about updating that from the prior submittal?
That is a great question. We certainly, let me see if he had a comment on that one. Been a minute. The bond doesn't come up in a quick search that he had any comment. I will say that the bond for the site covered restoration of the entire site, and we're not changing the footprint of our work or what needs to be restored. So I don't think there would be necessarily an impact on the cost of the bond that had to be posted.
How much of a bond do you have right now?
Good question.
The original estimate was 35.6.
Yes. The bond has been in place.
Has been in place?
Yeah, it's been in place. We couldn't start working.
And I mean, in my suggested comments for approval, it still talks about the city engineer has to sign off on that. So it's determined.
Yeah.
I would note that this memo quite some time ago, so I will need to update the approval that's in here to reflect today's meeting if someone makes that motion. If you're looking for suggested reasons, I have them here on the screen. Yeah.
Okay, anything more, Dan?
I don't think so at this point, no.
All right, so, as I understand it, the original comments you had back in March have been addressed.
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
All right, so based on that, does anybody have a motion to make in connection with the site development plan?
I'll make a motion to approve the application with the condition that the city engineer review the bond that's in place, and if need be, increase the amount, especially based on that new slope.
And do you want to include the conditions that Dan has set out in his memo?
Yeah, with any of the outstanding conditions set out in Dan's memo, and for the reasons he outlines in his memo as well. Approve it with the reasons that are outlined in his memo.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second to Kathy's motion then?
This is Ella. I'll second.
Thank you, Ella. So we have a motion by Kathy, second by Ella. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay, sounds unanimous. All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
thank you. Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Put in a good restaurant.
I know. We're gonna do our best. We're gonna try to find.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. I know.
Need to clarify, right?
So Ella joined at. Great.
Oh, yeah, she wasn't here when I took the roll, so we'll
So,
note that Ella's present.
so you have too many people seated right now, so who
Oh.
was,
So I'm the.
So we'll unseat.
I can sit up.
Nick.
what?
Nick's the only alternate that's seated.
Okay. All right, so,
I'll sit out.
okay, so I just want to make sure on the motion that it's not 6 people, so that, okay.
All right. Sorry, Nick. All right, so we're moving on to the next matter, which is a public hearing and potential action on the following special permit application. Postponed on 1/28/25, it's special permit number 24-13, 131 Providence Street, request for a special permit for a child care center. Application of Wilmer Castilla Reyes, property of Jehu and Deidre LeConte, Assessor's map 39, block 1, lot 30, zone NC. So, somebody want to make a motion to open the public hearing?
Make the motion.
I think we just booted you out.
No, I think Nick was seated and Jason
Jason
said he,
came
yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Is that what you got? That Nick was,
Nick was seated, Jason
Okay.
was never seated.
yeah, okay.
Sorry, Jason. All right, so Nick's making a motion to open the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dean. All in favor?
aye.
So the public hearing is open. Is there any preliminary matters that we need to take up before we hear from the applicant?
No, they can present. They haven't presented. yet,
No,
so.
not at all.
Yeah.
So if somebody is here from the applicant on this application, and you want to be heard, please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Wilmer Castillo. I'm here on behalf of this application.
Wilmer, do you have something you want to share on the screen, or do you want us to bring up the site plan?
I can share my screen.
Okay.
All right. Share. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Perfect. All right. So yep, as I said, my name is Wilmer Castillo. I'm here on behalf of this special permit application for 131 Providence Street. This application is requesting to use the existing office space as a childcare center. So 131 Providence Street is accessed via an easement shown here on the survey. So obviously we're here on Providence Street, Taffville. You would enter through this survey to the left here, up around this mixed-use property to the left of 131 Providence Street, and then access the rear parking. The property is on a 0.08 acre lot and situated in the neighborhood commercial zone. Next to the property is Taffville's volunteer fire department, so that's directly across the street. Also 2 properties over is Magnet Elementary School. And then to the left here, right to the left of the fire department, is a public playground. There's been multiple conversations with the commission back and forth. I want to give a special thank you to Deanna and Jeff and Richard. There's been a lot of work on this property, as you've seen. It's been adjourned for quite a while. The main issue that has been addressed with this property is parking and access via the easement. So obviously this is access via right of way, And there were concerns about one, accessing the property and also traffic mitigation within the property. Through multiple rounds of communication with the zoning board as well as our engineers, CLA engineers, we found that the best solution to mitigate any parking and access issues is to offer transportation services via a van that the childcare currently owns. So accessing the property would be parents would not be parking in the rear lot or dropping off or doing pickup. Pickup and drop off would be purely through van/bus transportation. We would be offering that to the community, and it was very favorable in our last meeting with zoning officers, Deanna, and multiple others in the room. The existing building currently is being requested to make certain modifications to make it more ADA accessible. Primarily, there is a new entry door being proposed at the rear of the building. So we have a 10-foot ramp with a 5x5 opening, landing. I think the applicant's goal for the space was to make minor improvements while maintaining the existing character and historic value of the building within Providence Street. I think that's generally a good overview of the project. Is there any specific questions from the commission?
I do.
Yes.
So the van that you're going to be using, where is it going to be? Where will people pick it up?
So is this specific van parking spot right here?
Well, where will the kids be dropped up, to get the van? So is the van gonna pick people up at their houses?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay, well, that's nice. Okay, that's good. That's a
Yeah,
nice
we-
extra service.
Yeah, we thought it would be good to the community. I know there's a lot
Yeah.
from our surveys and kind of looking at the area. A lot of parents don't have transportation, so we had the ability. The idea came up, and it was favorable to the zoning officers.
Oh, that's a good solution. I like that. So this is a private daycare center.
Yes,
Excellent. And the driveway going in is only 12 feet wide, so it's just one vehicle, so that's good, that you can't, that the public isn't allowed to drive in there.
yes.
Is there any parking along the street in the front? I'm sorry that I don't know that answer, but
No problem. Yeah, there's no street parking just because
Okay.
right next to us is Magnet Elementary School. There's already a lot of traffic there. And we didn't want to promote
Okay.
having more street congestion.
mhm. Okay, and there's sidewalks in the area,
Yes,
so if anybody wants to walk, that's fine too, right?
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
In the rear, excuse me, Kathy, that will be for employee parking now?
Yes. It'll be employee parking, and then when the van comes, and then obviously we'd be dropping off the kids at this landing and entering via the ADA ramp.
And how many employees are there? Or will there be?
Yeah, we're projecting currently 2 employees.
2?
Yeah, there'll be 2 full-time employees, and then we'll have volunteers that would be rotating. And
And-
go ahead.
How many students or kids?
We're at 12 kids.
12 kids.
Yes.
And are you going to make sure that the employees get to work before they're gonna have to get to work before the van. You don't want to have any people coming in and going out at the same time.
Yeah, so
Because can they see past that, that corner?
no, you can't really see behind it on Providence Street. I think I had it up right here. There we go. This is the site right here.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, I didn't go out there first. So then the building, okay, I know exactly where this is. So then the building, you go around,
Yep.
show me, you go around the back. Okay, there. Oh,
Yep.
thank you. Okay. And then you go there. So there is kind of a blind corner. Is that correct?
Yeah, are you saying this corner here?
Yeah. to get
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, you're not able to see the parking from the front or from the street.
No, I mean, well, when cars pull in, will there be a blind corner so that if someone's coming out at the same time, they won't see them?
Not really, Kathy. They'll be able to see in the
Yeah.
back.
Okay, that's my question, yeah.
That driveway leads to there's some mobile homes back there, Kathy.
Uh-huh,
That's their that's actually owned by them, that stub, so there's an easement for this property and the one that you see in the picture over that driveway.
And
okay,
Grave
and the,
has parking behind it, so that it's an open area that they'll be able to see. It's just not, the easement isn't large enough to allow two-way traffic.
okay, so I see the building, and what is behind that building? Is that just not the daycare building, the building next to it?
Oh, right next to,
Yeah,
that's
this-
where their
paid
parking
parking.
lot is. So you really can't, they don't have an easement to park in there.
No, I just want to make sure that there's, okay, I'm fine with this. I'm just looking at the access and because it's only 12 feet wide and,
That's that's why we didn't want to encourage, they originally were hoping to maybe talk to the abutting property, be able
Yeah.
to improve their parking lot, maybe share it, do some things, and it just was not feasible, so.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
they were very creative, and we have to give Warma and Jehu some, really big kudos for coming up. Because otherwise, this doesn't really work, like you could not do a daycare
No,
here
no.
without
And it's the
this.
key.
The
Yeah.
van
yeah.
is key.
Good.
Their transportation is the key.
Mm-hmm,
But the neighborhood does have a need, and I think that they said they've been talking to the people there who are looking to have a daycare, childcare center. And they were focusing on really small children. Am I correct on that, Wilmer? The babies,
Yeah, primarily infants.
infants?
but infants on a van?
Yeah, we've from surveys, I think a lot of parents have been looking for this service because a lot of them are looking to get back to work, especially kind of that age of getting 6 months to a year.
Oh, my goodness.
And they just have no way to
Mm.
transport their kids.
So if a parent has to come, because that could happen, yeah. Is there going to be one extra parking space for a parent in the back? If, someone has to pick up their kid, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I think our approach was we're going to be very strict in not encouraging that as much as possible. If a parent is going to be picking up their kids, we would want them to give us a very good notice. That way, it could be a very smooth transition from the front. Either they do a quick idling for 5 minutes in the front to pick up their kids, but we really do not want to encourage parking at the rear just because it's such a tight right of way. We
Right,
don't encourage that
it
to be
is.
happening.
I agree. But if a child gets sick or a baby gets sick, I mean, they're gonna pick up their child. So,
Yes. Yeah, we definitely understand situations will happen. I think what we would promote is having like a clear communication between our team, and this is going to be obviously within our standards and our operations to have the parents come and idle, whether it be a 5 or 7 minute idle in the front of the property, come pick up their kids and then go. We don't want to encourage them going through the right of way, going to the rear, and
yeah.
having that going on.
So have you talked to the police chief about having cars idle in front of the building?
We haven't had the conversation yet, no.
So I will tell you, Kathy, we went out there. If you can show the street view again, Wilmer,
Yes.
that would be helpful. So
Yeah.
there is some room to park there for sure. It's just that we
Yeah,
want it to be the long-term solution. We didn't want
no, right?
and that wasn't really the best handicap accessible door. That's why the handicap accessibility is the back. But if someone was coming to pick up an infant, obviously, and they were capable of walking in the door, that would be where the meetup location would be, with the front of the building.
Right. And what is,
No
what's,
parking zone on the street there.
Not that we know of, no, it's not marked
So
that way.
somebody could stop in front of the building and park and
Yes,
pick up their kid if they had to.
yes.
yeah, did you talk to the police department, Deanna, about that?
We didn't
If something happened like that,
Yeah, we talked to the police department. It was the city engineer that want people parking out front and dropping kids off. But I don't think anyone's opposed to a parent parking out front
You're
in
short
the
about it.
15-minute parking zone and either
Yeah,
staff.
I would ask, hold on one second, I'm sorry, my dog's giving me a hard time here. It would be, I think that it would be nice if you could get a sign put there that says, no parking, 15-minute, or something that can be placed there for, the parents if they need to pick them up, pick the kids up. I think something needs to happen like that.
There's already a sign there already, according to Jay, who,
Hold on,
you're on,
there's already a sign there already that says what?
It's 15-minute parking signed already.
Oh, it is, in the
Yeah.
front?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, you didn't tell me that before. Unless I didn't hear it because my dog keeps bothering me. She's gonna start barking in a minute.
is there anything else that the applicant
Yeah.
wants to share at this
Well,
point?
when you go through your responses to the special permit criteria.
Yes.
For hours operation and whatnot, please.
Yes. All right. I could go off the project narrative first and just share all the information that hasn't been shared yet from there. So we did take into account Magnet Elementary School being next door. We understood that they obviously operate between 8:30 and 3:45, and we wanted to specifically not be competing with their pickup and drop off time, which I believe was 8 to 8:50. I think JU was in charge of that information, but I believe it was 8 to 8:50 is where they have pickup. Drop off there, and then between I believe it was 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock is where they do pickup after school. So our times of operation would be stated here. These from 7 to 5, and then we would be having the van to begin pickup at 6:30 a.m. and drop off the kids at 7:30 a.m. So before Magnet School begins, we would be completed in picking up all of the children for daycare. And then we will be dropping off the children between 4:30 and 5:30 p.m.
So you're gonna have two vans?
We'll have one van that picks up all the children between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. and then drops them off at 4:30 to 5:30.
12 children in the van?
Yes, we have a 15-passenger van.
And they have to put them in car seats?
Yes.
And the baby, because they're gonna be babies?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've done the research, and it is a service that's offered before. It's not every daycare, but there are daycares that offer transportation for children and infants.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but I know what infants can be like, right?
Yes, most definitely. I have a couple myself that I take care of. And then another note, so a question of trash and obviously anti-odor for all the diapers. So we will be using anti-odor diaper pails. So this is just conceal the smell on site primarily because we have dumpsters. Let me see in this corridor here currently. So processes are being put in place to mitigate, smell and odor for this adjacent mixed-use building. Other notes, as mentioned before, we're accommodating a new ADA ramp, ADA entrance, and also an ADA bathroom, just to bring improvements to the site, improvements to the existing building, and make it more accessible generally to any parents that may need to use that, or staff, or anyone. Going through the special permit criteria. So if I go through it one by one, first, the proposed use must be consistent with the current Norwich plan of conservation and development. So noted it was consistent according to section 2.3.1.4.4. The location and intensity of the site, the nature and intensity of the operation involved in conducted and connected with the use. So essentially, the scale and the position of the building is to remain, and then to disrupt any harmony of the flow of traffic. There's been multiple conversations with the planning and zoning members to ensure that this specific proposal is not going to be impacting the harmony of the site in a negative way. The design elements of the proposed development must be attractive and suitable in relation to the site characteristics. So we're not proposing to change the exterior facade of the building. We're looking to maintain it, to maintain the cohesiveness and aesthetic of the neighborhood. Location, nature, and height of the building, wall, and fences, and the nature and extent of the planned activities and landscaping on site must be such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land. So as I stated, we're not proposing to modify the existing facade of the building. So there's currently no landscaping scope as is. So that should not be affecting the environment. The proposed use or activity must have no adverse effect upon the neighborhood air resulting from the use of signs, exposed artificial lights, color lights, or of any nature, ash lights, loudspeakers. So, we're a daycare. We're not proposing to use any type of, dramatic lights or sound that can impact neighboring buildings. And then there is currently existing signage in front of 131 Providence Street, and that is where we would be using for any advertisement, which is. If I go to the left here, this sign. So we would be using that exact same sign for any type of advertising. Right. The design, locations, and specific details of the proposed use or activity must not adversely affect safety in the street nor unreasonably increase traffic congestion. So I think we spoke about that earlier. I think the van is, as Deanna mentioned, the key to making the site work. And then, as we said, we don't want to encourage any on-street parking or 15-minute idling, as JU has said that it currently is. We don't want to increase the traffic congestion and flow of that space. Parking area or areas must be of adequate size for this particular use and be suitably screened from adjoining residential uses. So yeah, as stated, the van I think is our approach here to accommodate any type of parking requirements for parents and to use the site appropriately. Street dives and other right of ways must be of such size, condition, and capacity. Yeah, so this is why we're very much not encouraging rear parking because we don't want to increase the capacity of the existing right of way. So that's all been marked out within the plan. I think it's been discussed very thoroughly with several members of the zoning and planning division. The provisions for water supply, sewage disposal, and stormwater drainage must conform to accepted engineering practices. So I believe we had a waiver specifically for the drainage calculation. This is due to the fact that we're not really proposing a dramatic change in terms of payment or stormwater. From the site plan, go back here. We're proposing to maintain the gravel parking for the majority of the space, and then we would only be paving the ADA parking spot to minimize any type of drainage within the site. Right. The proposed use or activity must provide easy accessibility for reapparatus and police protection. So there's 3 entrances to the site, and it's the whole. We're only going to be using the first floor for the childcare, all of which is fairly open. There's no door other than to enter the bathroom and for closets. So entrance to the space would be very accessible for emergency services. Appropriate conditions shall be given to the protection, preservation, and or enhancement of natural, scenic, historic, and unique resources, including, where appropriate, the use of conservation restrictions to protect and permanently preserve natural. So as kind of stated, we're not looking to change the character of the environment. We're not looking to dramatically impact or propose some huge 20,000 square foot building on this site. I think we're trying to keep the existing building as is as much as possible. With making, modifications and improvements. Adequate provisions must be made for sustainable maintenance of the project development. So it shall be the ultimate responsibility of Be Joyful Childcare and the owners of 131 Providence Street to maintain the property and make sure it's operating while Be Joyful Childcare is operating. So we would be in charge of maintaining the property. Okay, so I think that's all of the criteria. Dan, did you have any other questions regarding that?
Nope, thank you for that.
No problem.
Anything else to be heard from the applicant? Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the application, either here or online? Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? Last time, anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? Last time, anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? Okay, I don't hear anybody who wishes to speak either for or against.
I'll go
Anything
through.
else
Sure.
from you, Dan, at this point?
Yep. I have a memo to go through real quick. Three, that's fine. So as Wilmer mentioned, we've had a lot of back and forth over all this time. The big key thing is the van. It doesn't work without the van. So that is a part of the suggested conditions of approval. Because there's no parking and there's no room for two-way traffic in the back. He did mention that the only area they're paving in the back is the ADA spot that's required to be paved. The city engineer has a couple of changes suggested to the site plan, but he's fine with that being incorporated after the fact. They did request several waivers, the bond estimate, drainage calculations, color renderings, signage. They did originally request a waiver from a site survey and a site plan, but they ended up creating one as part of the back and forth with staff over the beginning of the year here. So I would remind you to act on those after the public hearing is closed before a motion for approval.
That's the bond estimate.
Yeah, in the end, it's just,
Number two.
it's the bonds, drainage calculations, elevations, and signage. And as he mentioned, they're using the existing sign.
Okay.
And then signage, talked about the comments. Do you have any, is there gonna be a light in the back for the parking lot? Or is it's just on the back of the building?
Yeah, there'll be a light next to the door, so that'd be kind of laying up that space.
Okay. Since the drafting this memo, the building official is okay with it at this point. There's no room. They don't have, there's no room for anything.
Yeah, it looks pretty tight.
Yeah. I mean, if you could plant anything out front or have a flower pot out front, I think that'd be appreciated in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
but I don't. Aesthetically, it's pleasing. And then I would just add to these conditions of approval, we have about the pickup and drop off of children at the daycare is occurring via the van. But just to make sure that they're going to use the rolling carts for the trash and recycling because there's no room on the site to add a dumpster in the future. So if someone could add that to the suggested conditions here. And I believe that's it. I have a list of exhibits to read in. Because I didn't have time to PDF it to put it up on the screen.
That's okay. I'll go ahead and read them.
You want to read it?
I'll
You
read it
want to
quick.
talk? Deanna? All
No,
right.
make it easy for you. So there's a list of 20 items, the special permit application dated 11/25/2024, received 12/30/2024. The owner's authorization that came in 12/27/2024, received on 12/30/2024. Plan set received on 12/30/2024. The narrative that was received on 12/30/2024, but that had been updated. I think it's probably here again, but yeah. Waiver request that came in, 12/30/2024, the deed that came in 1/2/2025, Connecticut Outdoor Play Space, 1/16/2025, Plan Review Memo 1/1/21/2025, Plan Set, February 2025, which is 2/23/2025. Revised site plan, special permit narrative came in on 3/11/2025. The plan set April 2025 came in 4/8/2025. City engineer's review memo was dated 4/8/2025, received the same date. MPU review was done 4/9/2025, received on the same date. Plan review memo, number 2 was 4/9/2025, the same date. Plan set 05/09/2025 was received on that date. Plan set May 2025 was received May 12th, 2025. City engineer did another review memo number 2, dated 5/12/2025, received the same date. Plan review memo number 3, prepared by Dan Deniska, 5/16/2025, same date. Easement area 5/17/2025. The plan set 5/19/2025 came in on the same date. And the legal notice of publication was done 1/17/2025 and 1/24/2025. And we also have received in proof of the mailings that were done. They shows the post office did send them and he paid for them, and there's copies of the front of the letters. It's not exactly what we normally receive, but I think it's sufficient because it is the addresses that needed to be mailed to and shows the proof that they had postage on them and that we paid for the mailing. So I think that they're sufficient. That's it.
That's anything else from staff? Okay, do we want to go ahead and close the?
I have one more question. So most of the children will be infants, or some of the children will be infants. So how is it up to 3 years old?
We haven't finalized exact dating of the age range. I think we've been speaking with the license division and waiting to after this approval to then officially apply for our license. And we would be finalizing a bit more after we discuss with them what their requirements would be, what would be the best course of action for this community.
Okay, and so there's no playground on the site. So if you have older kids, they're not going to be able to go outside. What are the hours for the daycare?
It's 7 to 5, and that issue was brought up in the initial application. And we did reach out to the license division, and a local playground or a schoolyard suffices any requirements from the license division for it.
So you would be able to walk some of the kids to the playground.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, can we have a motion to close the public hearing then?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Dean Mason, second by Nick Fortson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing closed. I guess the first thing we need to do is request some waivers. So, does anybody want to make motions connected with the waivers?
I'll make a motion to waive the bond, the drainage, the elevation, and the signage. Those are the 4 waivers we're supposed to be waived. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, so I'll make that motion to approve those waivers.
So motion by Kathy to waive those 4 items: bond, drainage,
Elevations and signage.
elevation, and signage. Do we have a second?
This is Ella. I'll second.
Second by Ella. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so those waivers are approved. Then I guess we can move on to the merits of the application itself. Does anybody want to make a motion regarding the application?
I'll make a motion to approve the application, provided They must have van transportation, and if there's no van transportation, then this would be an invalid, they couldn't use it, would be a violation to the permit. They also must have strict no drop-off policy. Because I know people are gonna say, oh, I'm late and I'm gonna drop my child off later or whatever, that could happen. I don't think that should happen. And it sounds like they will have that. And then I personally would like to have I think the police department is the traffic authority. I personally, and we can talk about this, would like to have a sign that says, assigned specifically for this business, 15-minute parking only for the daycare. I think we should be able to do something like that, but I know the traffic authority would have to say that was okay. Is that correct?
We can't require that, that's, no, the police can.
Maybe consider,
can
have
request-
the
We
city
can-
pursue, have the planning
We-
department pursue signage.
We can request it, but we can't force the sign issue for the traffic control.
Right, but the traffic authority, who is the police department, could assign a space there, and I think we should try to do that.
Yeah, all I'm saying, Kathy, is that we don't have the authority to require that, but we can request
Yeah,
the
but
police department to do it.
we can ask the police department to do it. And I mean, even if the applicant provides the sign, exactly like this is for whatever the name of the daycare is and only assign 15-minute parking for, whatever. So I think I would like that if we could do that.
Yep.
All right, those are my
I don't think we can make it a condition of.
I know, but I think we can make it a recommendation or a suggestion that it be done.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying too. Kathy.
Yeah,
We
that's
can-
fine.
We can't make it a condition of your motion, but we can make it a recommendation
Right.
along with your motion.
Yes, because we can't tell the police department, but if we ask the police department to do it, they probably would consider it, and I think we should ask them to do it.
We will do that, Kathy.
Kathy, could I
Thank you.
include the trash can?
Oh, yeah, and the trash cans, that they be stored on the side of the building and they cannot leave them out beyond the day that there's trash pickup.
And we just want to ensure that they don't get a dumpster because that will take up the parking space. That's why we don't
Yeah, no dumpster.
roll
That's
off.
fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other additions to your motion? I assume you want to include all the conditions in Dan's memo?
Yes, and that the reasons, because it conforms to section 2.3 and chapter 5 of the zoning regulations and section 7.7 of the zoning regulations.
Okay. All right, so with that, do we have a second to Kathy's motion?
This is Ella, I'll second.
Okay, so we have a second to Kathy's motion.
Please stop it.
Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So the motion carries unanimous. All right. Thank you, all.
Well, we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
We'll be
Thank you.
happy.
And I think this is a good service that you're going to be providing to the community.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Good luck.
Right.
With the agenda, I don't see any extension requests,
No,
bond reductions,
no,
any other business?
no.
This, referral.
Ken talked about it in
Oh.
the beginning,
Okay,
before you came down.
Most of us were here then.
I was getting this stuff for him. Sorry, Kathy.
Refer online, so
Okay,
you spoke to it.
thank you, Kathy, for doing that.
Do we have
What? I missed that.
staff report?
Staff report, we are very in deep, up to our necks with working on the zoning regulations with our consultant. We have almost all the chapters done in very much draft form. They're very draft, and we're working on the table of uses, which you think would be the easiest one, but it's very hard because they took all of our uses and kind of smushed them all in one and they said, look at them. But I just didn't envision that it was gonna be the way it is, so it's been very arduous going through that. Our goal is to finish that tomorrow, and that's our goal. And tomorrow, and then Dan on Thursday to send that to our consultant, and hopefully, I mean, there's sections that still are gonna have gaps in them that we need to. But at least we can have it in a form that I can then read through and make my notes on, because right now it's been little bits of chapters at a time, and it's just not. It's very hard to envision the whole document when you're just doing it that
Yeah.
way.
We're hoping to get a midway draft back so we can not stare at the same track changes. We've been staring at.
Yeah, and I don't like looking at it that way. It's hard for me to read it over again, and I have
Mhm.
set, my old zoning regulations with notes on it, and I want to be able to find where those are and kind of change them. So I think it's going well. We haven't been able to have any meetings with anyone yet because we don't have anything to show anyone. But
But
it's,
we're trying to slow it down a little bit too, because we got that $250,000 CIF planning grant for the state hospital property. So we want that to be incorporated into this,
so
so
we
we're
can-
not changing zoning regs again 5 months later.
yeah, so we don't want to we want to look at what the uses are. We have, what we want to call that zone. If it's going to be different, we think it's going to be different than anything else. And so we really want to look at that. So, I mean, but we are getting pushed on the other end from NCDC because they have a lot going on and they want to see us, address some things that they'd like to have addressed. But we don't really want to do this piecemeal. They did go in front of the council. I think we had the special meetings about the 6 acres that they wanted to rezone from R80 to PDD. Was a little portion of one of the sites that they already have. It's like 100-acre property and 6 acres was still residentially zoned. So last night the council did approve that zone change. So the map needs to be changed and updated. So there's a lot, because not only the zoning regulations, we have to update the map. We're doing some zone changes in that map that we think are appropriate, and just kind of looking at stuff that was in the POCD, and it's a lot of work. And but we're doing it. What else is going on? Budget has not been passed yet. I've been going to those meetings. We'll see what happens. We are going to be, it's in our budget to lose our assistant blight position. It's one position. And that was a cost saving measure for each department to try to find where they could save some money. And that position, although valuable, it really never functioned the way that I had wanted it to. So as far as the way that duties work, they just didn't really match. So what we really need is another full-time blight person, specifically blight, but not this year, because obviously we're not asking for stuff. So that's a tricky one. So
And our blight officer did leave for another job.
yeah, the blight housing code, he did leave. So
The
that
building
position.
officials are filling in a
Housing
couple
code.
hours a week to do housing.
So Dan Coley is taken, because he used to be blighting housing code a while ago. So he took the blight because that's the hardest, as far as lots of it right now. And the housing code, the assistant building officials, since they go out on them anyways, 90% of the time, they took on the housing code issues. So they're getting paid a stipend right now to do the extra work on that. And so it's a lot where everybody's really busy, and so there'll be a re-subdivision application coming in soon. And a pretty big one, and
Yep.
some other things down the road. There's a lot. I think all of a sudden we're gonna be super busy again, so.
I have a question.
Well, my question is, my wife and I walked through the business park, Norwich Business
Oh,
Park.
yeah, yeah.
We seen the Thames printing building where Thames prints. I'm just wondering what's going on there, because the north side of the building's used, the south, I'm gonna say the south side's been empty. They painted the whole building, and they just did all the landscaping in front. I was just wondering if there's,
I forget
they're
which-
using up,
They're in
somebody going in,
discussions
or-
with 2 possible tenants.
Yeah, so I mean, people talk about the existing business park having a lot of land left there. There really isn't. There is like maybe one parcel we thought that maybe could have some additional buildings on it. We had talked about.
Yeah, but there's a lot of wetlands up
Right.
there, a lot of
Yeah.
steep slopes.
Yep.
And
ravines.
housing, and
Yeah.
you gotta be careful, because people don't wanna have something right next to them, so it's really tricky up there, but tomorrow night there's a meeting about the Yantic river resiliency. The COG received some money to do a study, and it's really to figure out what might be 3 potential routes that the city and the COG can take about doing something for the river. It may be trying to go for grants to be able to figure out what those things would be and then be able to do that. So, you know, maybe it's helping the businesses with relocation. Maybe it would be to do some dredging. There's all different options
That's
that are,
been dredged in years.
but the engineers,
They dredged it, it came out much nicer than it was.
yeah, but the engineers said it's such a short-term solution. It's not a long-term. It
Mm.
doesn't stay. You know, is,
1% reduction.
yeah, it's not huge, but you
The
know,
other big thing was removing the upper falls.
upper falls, because you know, that what we've already talked about taking, you know, and that will help to some extent, but it's not gonna help upstream a lot, you know, so then.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Sherman Street, we just did that. There was some discussion by the business owners that have been flooded that they think it's, we need to look at the bridge that goes to Stop and Shop, that it's too low and it's not wide enough, and that
Choke point.
is, yeah, it's a choke point. So there's a lot, but so we're taking in comments from the public still tomorrow night. It's, I think, 5 to 8 or 5 to 7 at Otis Library if you want to go. They, you know, suggest things or just kind of listen to what's going on.
We have a couple of meetings, public meetings coming up for the waterfront
Mm,
grant that we got, June 6th,
Yep.
I believe.
Yeah.
The first Friday. There'll be, I don't know if this is 100% yet, but there'll be a table at the marina
Marina.
underneath the tent for public feedback.
So the city received quite a lot of money to do work down in the marina area, but also really on Howard T. Brown Park primarily, I would say. Some of the Heritage River Walk, Kathy, to update that, to do some improvements there too. But it's really about the public improvements that can be done at Howard T. So they're looking for input, and those would be improvements that also could be like family oriented, you know, so people really wanted to go back to having mini golf or those, so all those kind of feedback is what they're looking for.
I've seen a lot complaints about homeless people living down or staying down there.
There's a, you know, I see stuff,
Take
not through
Norwich.
us, but it's really through the Norwich Community Forum. We read
Yes.
it, we read it too,
I've
you
seen it.
know, so they'll, you know, that'll be brought up, I'm sure, during the discussions about, like I said, about the riverfront, or people feel safe going down there, and, you know, and what would they want to see down there? So right now, we're gonna be dealing with a lot of, which is kind of a good problem to have. There's a lot of food trucks that are coming now down to the park down there, and a lot of people are going there, but the health department's kind of concerned about how many are down there, and, you know, and are we ready to do that, and are we okay with that? So, but, you know, that's kind of a nice draw for people to go down to get something at the food truck and go eat there at the park too, so.
And Marina Towers should come down this week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Any
Yeah,
talk
it's
about a
kinda
replacement,
for,
the building?
not right now, so that's partly waterfront discussion, but
This, the whole
Yeah.
project, yeah.
we would like to see the realignment of the road, a little bit.
Move the entrance to match up with Falls Avenue, so it's just one intersection.
The T intersection, that would be
Opposed to
better.
split. So,
What about these Main Street apartments? What's going on with them?
So they're working on the tax credit stuff. Finally, they're kind of working on the facade on that, and I think that, which is good. As a matter of reminds me, I gotta,
Sold? I heard it was sold.
no,
I haven't heard that.
no, we haven't heard that.
That the people who own the Summit Street apartments bought the whole place out.
No, that would be news to us.
Yeah.
I've heard, that's what I've heard
No, that's
from
news to
somebody
us.
who works there.
Oh, so then, so, but they're pretty full, I think, and we haven't had complaints since the beginning when they first opened, so that's always a good thing. There-
Reviews is almost done.
Yeah, it's looking really good.
Yeah.
Apartments are really nice in there. And then 101 Water Street was just purchased at auction the other day, which is Water Street and
Thames
in
Plaza, Bill
Chel-
Thames Plaza.
Bill Thames Plaza, where
Oh.
Chelsea, on Chelsea Harbor Drive and
Yeah.
Water Street and Market.
Oh, who bought it?
I believe it's called Spectra. We've talked to them before when they were looking at buying it, and then they bought it at auction.
Mhm.
I believe they want to do mostly housing down there, but
Are they gonna take the building down?
no,
Oh,
No, they
too
want,
bad.
staff to really use it for housing, I think, but
Mhm.
really still want commercial there as well, so.
Oh,
Have,
okay.
some commercial, at least on the first floor, so it doesn't become just apartments there, so.
Mm,
Anyways, but, yeah, and Listella's doing terrific. I just went over there today. They moved over to 80 Broadway. And they are just 40% up on what they were before. They're doing really good in their new location. They're really happy.
Where do people park usually for that? Up in the garage?
Or right behind them, there's a little parking
that's
lot
right.
right there
Yeah.
next to NAC and out in our garage. And
there's never a problem with parking. We go there and the place is packed when we go on a Saturday night
at Listella,
and always find a parking space, no problem.
yeah. Are you liking the new location?
I love it.
Yeah, so that's good. And then the
Mexican restaurant where Lastella's was.
and
Yeah.
they're doing well, and these guys brewery is doing phenomenal at the
I
marina.
could
So,
smell them when I drove by.
Yeah. yeah, so everyone, that kind of stuff is doing well, you know.
What's going on with
Over
the
to-
property that was gonna be Burger King on West Town Street?
Nothing. So, as far as I know, all of the Burger King owner, owned hundreds of them. And all of them were for sale. And as far as I know, it's still listed under the same ownership. The Burger King, approval expired. And my recommendation to the council
Okay,
to
yeah.
you, if they come back in, is to, to not extend that Burger King and let them come back in
Mhm.
with a new site plan for something, and not just do that. So they've been made aware that the site plan is past the 5 years, and I have not been encouraging that we would renew that.
Well, if they're not gonna put a Burger King there, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, now,
We would
The-
like to see some of the build businesses, to be honest with you, that are in the floodplain. Think
mhm.
like the Domino's Pizza and the Busy Bees, those would be great locations for them to move across the street. and not
Yeah,
complain.
yeah.
But
What
What-
about, and I know, they're doing work on it. That cafe that is where Johnson Flower, when are they gonna open?
talking about the one that used to.
Oh, they,
Across from back.
yeah, they're getting ready to file their Mylars on that.
Yeah,
Oh, they're doing work on the inside, and I think they might even be, I don't know.
Oh.
they're
Anyway,
not, they haven't, they were, yeah, they're not ready, but they're getting close, because we just asked this week and they're getting ready to file their Mylars.
Oh, that's good. That will be a nice spot too.
Yeah, we're, there's a lot of little things going on and people don't see it, and they're all little, to be honest with you, there's a lot of little gems going on. And YMCA, we're having, was it this week they're having the meeting? Thursday, we're having a site meeting out there. The pre-construction for the apartments are really going, heavy duty on
Yeah.
YMCA now.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
Stanton and Greenville schools are starting to do site prep for that.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. The Greenville one was, Kathy, your
The blasting survey is
Blasting-
happening.
the blasting survey, I think it was 1,500 feet, right?
It's happening.
They didn't realize, they kind of overlooked that it was 1,500 feet, which was your recommendation, and they think they owned it out for 500 feet, and then
Oh, uh-oh.
realized it in the conditions and tried to smooth it with us to try to change it. We said, you'd have to go back to the commission as a condition of approval. So they're doing the blasting survey at 1,500 feet.
Oh, well, they should do it. They should have done it before.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's what's happening on that one, and, we'll have the other schools pretty soon in here, right? That's another thing we'll have in front of the commission. The next two schools.
Preliminary site.
Hill Mill.
Hill Mill is moving along very slowly right now, but when I talk to them, they have a new, or I don't know if it's new, but they have the interior designer. And that's what's been taking a while, ordering the furniture and doing all that. So it's gonna be was it Tapestry by Hilton Hotel. So, they're really excited about, so now it's. No, I think it's gonna be in 2026. I think it's after the new year. Dan says they're going, they're just going slow. And I spoke with them and they said, yep, we're doing things. And Phil Biondo's actually, that was here, it's working for One Key, is also now working for them, and he's doing some management there for them, so. But no, everything's moving along.
Seems like a lot.
It is so much, and people don't realize that there's just two of us in the office doing, Kathy, you know what it's like, it's just one over there.
Are you applying for a SIF grant?
This round,
Yeah.
I
Kevin,
believe the city is, but we are not.
Oh, what are they applying for?
Lower Broadway,
To do what?
some housing and
that,
Pocket
park,
Park.
the pocket park over there by the church,
So,
Housing where?
probably the
Fairhaven.
Fairhaven.
Oh, okay,
So that's
okay.
kind of that thing and,
Mm,
our department is not, we have too many, we have this K part is
we just
huge.
can't.
We just can't, we're trying to get through the paperwork to get K part off the ground. And-
yeah,
And then the planning study for Norwich State Hospital, we want to get that going so we can get a consultant on board. And,
mm,
and the
Plus the
waterfront,
zoning Regulate.
yeah, it's a lot,
yeah, I know,
keep you
it
busy.
is.
yeah.
All
Don't
right.
get sick.
You guys sleep?
No, we don't. I was
You live here.
here 3 nights this week, last night, tonight, and tomorrow.
Mm.
So,
Okay, with that said, I have a motion to adjourn. Nick
Okay.
makes a motion. We have a second.
I'll
Second,
second.
By Dean. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Okay, we've adjourned at 8:20.
thanks, guys.
Thank you all.